morning, everyone. All right, we are reviewing my trades yet again. Fourth bright green day in a row. I can't remember what my last day was before I went on vacation, but every single day this week has been very bright green. And today was definitely a much more wild ride. At no point was I red today, but I did end up taking three losses today. Obviously, had a lot more green trades, but it's a pretty good day to review. Not as clean cut as the last 3 days have been, but the strategy is still consistent. As you guys know, I trade the exact same way every single morning. Basic momentum and liquidity analysis, uh, first leg consolidation, second leg concepts, and then supply and demand as well, right? By the way, I had no idea that this was a perfect double bottom. I had no idea this was a perfect double bottom. That may have changed. Let's see if that would have changed my morning. Yeah, for some reason I didn't have this demand this morning, but it is definitely looks like a demand. Yeah, that's a perfect double bottom on ES. I'm bearish for that. Huh. Yeah, I didn't have that. Anyways, so pretty much my analysis, pre-market analysis was, if you look on like the 15-minute, if we invalidate this pullback, I'm bullish to this high. 20.044 on NQ. And then we also are flagging here. It's actually a descending broadening wedge, but I'm just going to call it a flag because it's shorter. We're flagging here on ES, but looking at this now, especially with this liquidity sweep, definitely bearish for this demand to break. But we'll see what happens. So the market opens. And I actually need to pull up my channel because I took a lot of trades this morning. I traded for an entire the full I traded for more than an hour this morning. Usually spend like 20 minutes in and out. That wasn't the case today. But anyways, yeah, this was the major pre-market analysis. I said, good morning team. Nearest major pivot is 20.044 on NQ. If we bounce them and calls for it, I was not paying attention to this though. This is actually the closest most major pivot. But anyways, we start dropping a decent amount, kind of thinking about puts, and I get no chance. Like I get no chance. So you know what? That makes sense why I didn't notice the perfect double bottom, because it broke like immediately. And I did have that demand. That's why I don't remember the demand, because it was out within just a second. I literally got to the market on the opening candle. I wasn't here for the pre-market. So yeah, that's gone. This is my new most major pivot here on NQ. Kind of leaning bearish for it. Could fill puts there if I wanted to, but the next candle opened really, really green, so I held off. And all of a sudden, QQQ or NQ flipped super strong. Now, I don't have a PT on ES, as you can see. I mean, I have some pivots way down here, but as far as near side pivots, I have like none on ES. And ES is the weak one, and NQ is the strong one. So if NQ were super weak, I'd be willing to hop in QQQ puts for this pivot, but it's not. It's super strong. So right now, it's kind of looking like QQQ calls will be my first trade if we get up to roughly here. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, NQ flips weak. You're going to see a lot of strength changes this morning, way more than usual, which made it a lot more difficult to trade. But now ES is strong, which kind of makes sense because it just swept a major pivot, a perfect double bottom actually, and a basic triple bottom if you include this, just not perfect. So it flips stronger, giving evidence of a liquidity sweep. I'm kind of eyeballing QQQ puts here, but then this happens. I have to get into SPX calls here. 10 times out of 10 times, I have to get into SPX calls. So this was actually my first trade. I filled the 0 days at 2.85. And yeah, have to get in. No choice. It was so much stronger than the NASDAQ. Very likely a hit PT. But when I entered this trade, and this is why my channel is way better than any other analyst channel, because I update you guys. You guys see all my charts, you see all my analysis, all my predictions, and I talk to you guys while I'm doing it, which I hope you guys appreciate, because it is an absolute pain in the ass to do while I'm trading. And you can see, you can't see it on Discord, but you can see on my on the recording, you can see the what I said here. I said if I stop loss out of this SPX call trade, I have to get into QQQ puts for this pivot here, which is the blue line on the chart. So there is potential for back-to-back red trades, but if I'm triggered in, I'm triggered in. You know, obviously I would hate to go back-to-back red trades, but I know very well that if this trade stops out, which it's not looking likely at all, but of course it's possible, I have to get into QQQ puts right after. It's not a revenge trade. I have to get in. By my strategy, by the liquidity analysis, how close that pivot is, I cannot wait another candle, which means I could lose 2 trades back to back. It's important that you guys read my channel so you know what's going to happen before it happens, if that scenario plays out. You guys have the chart. You see where my stop loss is. You don't need to wait for an exit alert. You can be a fully functioning adult and stop loss on your own. This is my stop loss. I'm in because of this massive green candle. I will be out if most of this massive green candle invalidates. Is what it comes down to. Starts looking okay until it doesn't. I actually stop out early. Well, first off, I filled QQQ puts early. I filled QQQ puts on this. The order got a little mixed up. You could have stopped out of SPX calls right here, right as the candle closed for a bit of a smaller loss, but then got a worse fill on QQQ puts. I actually entered QQQ puts first and then sold my SPX calls right afterwards. But because it dropped so fast during the next candle, I actually sold roughly right here, like kind of into the next candle. But again, you're not getting that exit. If you're waiting for an exit alert to sell because you're just a brand new retail trader that doesn't know how to trade on their own yet, which is fine, we've all been there. You're screwed. You're not going to catch this QQQ trade. You're going to stop loss late as hell and take a huge loss. It's just not going to work. So anyways, I took only a 9% loss on those SPX calls. Some of them sold at 2.55, but the rest sold at 2.6, which was interesting. I'm like, oh, that's not actually a big loss at all. The calls didn't drop much, so I'm thinking in my head, to me, the premiums are bullish. So I'm thinking we bounce after sweeping this pivot. So anyways, we get to the pivot. I'm like, okay, next PT would be this ES low of day. I pretty much sell all of it here. I have nothing but a runner left for the ES new low day, but I literally have one contract. I only got 15% gains here, but it was a full-size position. The last trade was only minus 9%, so I'm green on the day now. And I sell my last runner, I believe it was on this candle. I didn't actually hold. Yeah. So, small loss on SPX, small win, but a little bit bigger on QQQ. Small group, very small green on the day. And if this drop invalidates, I got to be back in calls. And it's important to note the context of the setup. This is a descending broadening wedge. Yes, you can claim that it is a large, like broadening top that could be a reversal pattern. It's possible. I wouldn't say it's likely, though, given the nature of this trend that we're in right now. And you also got to take into account how hard these bounces are and if we're making lower lows before the bouncing, which we are. The bounces are super hard. We're making lower lows beforehand. This is building up a lot of potential energy. Not kinetic energy because, we're not currently running, but a lot of potential energy. It's like a spring compressed against your desk. The second you let go, it'll shoot up. That's what I'm seeing here. So if we come up, I'm going to have to be in calls. And I can't remember if I filled on this candle. Oh, I filled even early. I filled on this candle. I forgot about that. Yeah, I took an early entry here. Just based on the QQQ liquidity sweep. Yeah, you have to look at it pretty closely. And obviously I look at it closer when I'm live trading because each candle lasts for a minute. I filled my QQQ calls here. The big thing is, yes, it did put in a beautiful bullish liquidity sweep, which did trigger me in. But NQ actually flipped stronger than ES, and you can see it here. I mean, you can see it. Look at these two green candles here. Both those candles were red on ES, so you can see the strength change on NQ, which was caused by dipping into the buy side liquidity, which was here. But you're also going to see pretty much this entire selling wick invalidate. You're not going to see that on ES. And on top of that, it did invalidate most of the recent drop. So it was enough for me to pull the trigger and hop in calls. Now, at the bare minimum, I'm looking for the previous high on both ES and NQ. But ideally, you know, high of day would be nice. This is a really nice pivot right here. It starts going well pretty much immediately. I take a trim here, trimmed pretty much half, and held rest for the next ES high and then NQ new high of day. And it was beautiful. It got there. Unfortunately, though, NQ looked like it flipped a little bit weaker up here now. Not sure why. It did. You can see how big the red candle is on NQ. It invalidates the entire green candle. ES, it's not the case. Look how much stronger ES is. It's important to take this into account. Anyways, I sold QQQ calls here, the rest of them. Beautiful. So that's another 23% gain. The gains were small today. I mean, this was a pretty big trade. I mean, it was 241 ticks. I didn't buy during necessarily high IV. I expected a bigger gains. So it was at 23% here, and then my best sell was at 28% at 94 cents. But look how strong ES is. Not only is it so much stronger than NQ, but it's ES with the beautiful flagging setup, the broadening wedge. And now that we're against this top trend line, and the reason this trend line's moved down is because of this high right here. There it is. I have to be bullish here. Like, this is set up to break out. This is a trade I always enter, whether it's from the 15-minute time frame or the 1-minute time frame. This is a trade I always enter. So look how much stronger ES is than NQ. So I make the decision. What do I see? Obviously the broadening wedge, but I also see a potential fractal inverse head and shoulders here. So what am I expecting? I'm expecting a pullback, but I'm expecting it to be temporary. And lately, I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before. I cannot remember. But there's been a lot of inverse head and shoulders with very small right shoulders because the trend of the market has been so bullish. And by the way, speaking of the bullish trend, I look at my thinkorswim and the calls that I were in are up another 50%. Crazy run today. Geez, I don't know if there's going to be anything for my futures trading today, which is 5 green days in a row, by the way. Should be 6, but we've been printing on futures as well as options in this server. But anyways, so I'm scaling into calls on this pullback. So next candle, I enter pretty much a quarter size here. Not at the bottom of the candle, unfortunately. And I enter a bit more, not on this candle, at the start of the next candle. No, that's false. I did enter another quarter on this candle here. But it was right here that I realized, so I'm a little bit bigger than half size at the moment. But it's right here that I tell you guys I make the executive decision that I'm not adding the rest. I'm not averaging down anymore unless ES comes all the way back up here. Then I will probably average up on the second half. Because you see the issue here, ES is doing exactly what I need. It's looking beautiful. It is way stronger than NQ. It's only pulling back a little bit in relation to NQ. The problem is, yes, it's rejecting a nice supply and did get volume confirmation, which does signal a potential reversal, right? I get that. But the bigger issue is NQ's dropping way too much. You can see a potential inverse head and shoulders here on NQ. This is what I wanted to happen. It is dropping way too much. And at this point, we've actually invalidated a majority, barely. It pretty much hit 50%. We barely invalidated a majority of the entire huge run. And I'm like, oh shit. If that happens right after rejecting supply and sweeping a pivot, forming a bearish liquidity sweep, I'm actually going to have to start being bearish for new low of day on NQ. And it doesn't matter how strong ES is. If NQ goes for new low of day, that's going to drop ES a lot. Probably at least to here. And on top of that, these calls were, calls today for some reason were just chopping a bunch. So, yeah, that's a big problem. I actually stopped on this candle. It did get a huge buying wick, but I just pulled the plug. I'm like, you know what? I'm only half sized right now. I'm not going to try to save this trade and just keep averaging down so I can take a bigger loss. It's pretty much invalidated. While I'm still bullish on ES overall, I'm now more bearish on NQ than I am bullish on ES, if that makes sense. I'm now more bearish on NQ than I am bullish on ES. Was enough for me to pull the trigger. on the stop loss. So minus 21%, I believe. I believe it was minus 21%. Yep, minus 21%, but I was half size. So really, it was like a minus 11% full size loss, which is fine. But this is where the fun starts. You know, if this buying wick invalidates, I am in QQQ puts. And it wasn't on this candle. Maybe it wasn't even on the next one. When did I said right here on this candle, or sorry, on the last candle. No, I said on this candle, liking QQQ puts for new low of day. I filled them heavy at 658. That is not on this candle. I think I filled them on 657. Yes, it was on this. No, it wasn't. It was right during the next candle. I just remember that it's when a buying wick invalidated. Right at the start of the next candle. Right when the next candle opened, right when this candle opened red. And by the way, this stop loss was a little bit later. It was during this candle here. That's what I remember. It was like right here. Technically, my PT was all the way up here, but... So the stop loss was right here. There's just repeating the same candles over and over. It gets confusing to review. But anyways, this is where I said, liking QQQ puts, filled them for new low of day heavy, right as the next candle formed, right as this final buying wick invalidated. I did have some hesitation because it did make lower lows with buying wicks here, but I did wait, and if the next candle fills red, I'm in. And I actually filled 2x size on this. Something I don't do often. I mean, you guys that follow along with my channel and trade with me in the mornings, I probably say I fill heavy on a trade once every 3 weeks or something. It was just so damn likely in my eyes, which is fine. You know, it's not technically terrible to up your size on a trade as long as you are 100% willing and indifferent to losing twice as much. Like genuinely, you know. So that's that was a big decision. And right after, thank God, I decided to pull the trigger on those SPX calls. And it just goes to show you cannot be scared to stop out of trades. I used to give a shit about my win rate. I don't anymore. I only care about making money, right? If you're scared to pull the plug on a trade, the second the hypothesis, the second the reason why you got into the trade initially invalidates, you're just going to keep losing money trading until you can figure out how to do that. But anyways, PT was NQ new low of day, and then it was ES new low of day. I dumped on this candle. This was beautiful. And it's also slightly frustrating because like I can't catch a break because every single, like almost every green trade I have ends up flipping weaker than ES. Like ES ended up flipping weaker and dropping more. I would have made more money if I were in SPX, but whatever. It was beautiful. Still not big gains. I got 29% on this trade. I sold on this candle. All my PTs hit. To be honest, it was really lucky because news came out the next candle and it was massive. But I didn't even know there was news next candle. I wasn't paying attention, to be honest. But 29% gains, but I was 2x sized. So that was like a 58% gain on one trade. So it's looking beautiful. I mean, I have 2 losses at the moment, 2 wins. Right? 2 wins? The QQQ? No. False. 3 wins. That's what it was. I have 3 wins. When I take a bunch of trades, it gets confusing. 2 losses, 3 wins, but one of those losses was half size, and one of those wins, the biggest one so far, was double size. It is a bright green day. It's looking freaking beautiful. But it's not done yet. Because the next candle, I thought it was going to be done. I thought it was going to be done trading, but then this candle happens, and I almost enter SPX calls on this candle. I'm like, holy shit, because I have to. We have this beautiful flag. We have a ton of potential energy if the drops continue to invalidate. We are sweeping nothing but lower lows. This flag is fully set up to break if most of this move invalidates. I almost filled, but it was a news candle and started putting in a selling wick, so I waited. And now I'm just kind of taking it slow. Looking better, calls are looking better. ES is stronger than NQ. Boom, I fill on this candle. I actually filled roughly about here. Bare minimum trim point is this high, but really I'm kind of looking for supply to break. And the size of this pattern easily warrants a supply break. You know, if you take the width of the pattern, that's how you get In this case, a conservative PT. A not conservative PT is the length of the entire first leg. So really the potential for this to run is all the way up here. And I'm going to leave this white line here so you guys can see this. The width of the pattern, if it's a bullish consolidation pattern, the width of the pattern is a very conservative PT, right? If it is like a very huge like reversal pattern, like a head and shoulders or an inverse head and shoulders, the width of the shoulder is a very aggressive PT. Like it's not as likely to happen. But bullish consolidation, especially after a trend this size, this is a pretty conservative PT. Pretty damn likely to hit. Doesn't mean I'm going to hold calls all the way to it, but that's what the potential looks like. But anyways, I fill calls here. Looks absolutely beautiful. But for some reason, the calls start chopping and I get a reversal candle. On this candle, I said we hit break even. You can sell. It doesn't look good. You know, we swept higher highs here and here. Does not look good. Actually, stop out, I believe, on the next candle. Yep, stopped out on this candle. Again, not afraid of taking a loss. It doesn't matter. Like I always say, losses are nothing but business expenses to make us available for the next trade that wins. That's all it is. My loss was only 10% here. Not willing to do more. But it did put in a freaking massive buying wick. So if it comes back up, I said I will take one more trade this morning. If it invalidates this pullback, I'll be back in because the trade hypothesis is revalidated. And again, it just all comes down to not caring about your outcomes. I genuinely do not care if the trade I enter is red or green. I do not give a shit, right? Maybe I care slightly more if I'm 2x size, but it's so rare that it's not even applicable. I do not care if I'm red or green on the trades. And if you don't have that mentality, you will never make money trading. It's very important that you adopt that mentality. Study Mark Douglas is important. Anyways, yeah, that's the only trade I have left. Also, hang on. Right here I said, you know, this has happened 3 times today. I try SPX calls. They fail. I get in QQQ puts because it has invalidated a majority of the run. And the QQQ puts to new low of day play out. This is the 3rd time. This is the 3rd loss on SPX calls. And after the last 2 SPX calls, QQQ puts to new low of day made me all my money back plus some. But what I said in my channel is very important. I said, let me see. Let me see exactly what I said. I said, if it goes back up, I'll give it one more attempt, referring to the SPX calls. By the way, great cut. Like, these dropped like 30%. Fantastic stop loss. You love to see it. But it's also important that I said at 710, so right at the start of this candle, I said, not feeling QQQ puts again, to be honest, would rather wait for calls again. If you are confident you could, and I italicize that, you could go for NQ new low of day again, but these bounces have been way too strong for me to continue to expect new low of days, and especially after making lower lows after each bounce. I'm not expecting it to get low of day, so I don't take it. Phenomenal decision by yours truly. It's almost like we know how to read a chart. We did continue dropping a bit, but we did pop right back up. It was beautiful. And I filled calls this candle. Early on, fairly early, not early. I got a better average than what the candle closed at. I filled like right here. My last attempt. Bare minimum, I'm looking for new high of day, but really, I said I want supply to break, right? Look at the potential for this pattern. This is a conservative potential for this pattern. Truly conservative. I'm looking for supply to break. Of course, ES ended up flipping weak, so I thought, nah, I'm going to end on a loss, but it's not going to matter because I'm green. But then all of a sudden it pops back up, and then it drops again. B's weak again, and then it pops back up. And then NQ flips way stronger than ES, which chopped the hell out of my contracts, unfortunately. QQQ made a bit more money. But it did hit PT, which was freaking glorious. So I took those calls from 2.5 all the way up to 3.4 was myself for plus 36% gains on a full-size trade. Unfortunately, I should have made more. Like 36% is nothing, but for some reason, the options today are just super choppy. So, boom, that's another green trade, plus 36%. Made back that last loss pretty much 4 times over. But then what I say is very important. As you know, this pattern's huge. There's a lot of potential. And right after I take profits, we pull back. Flawless sell. 10 out of 10. But look how strong the NASDAQ is. The same trade that I lost on here, this was the exact same setup as this trade. But because I'm confident in my analysis, it doesn't matter if I lose on a trade, I will still take that same trade every single time I see it because over the large series of events, I will always make money. And so this setup right here was pretty damn identical to this setup here that I already lost money on. And knowing that it's a good setup, am I really going to lose twice in a row? Probably not. Totally possible. But I said right here, I'm done alerting. But if this drop invalidates, calls, QQQ calls to this pivot here, which, mind you, was my pre-market analysis PT, looks fantastic. And I said it a couple times. I said it before this. I said, while this was still running, I said the next price target would be 20044.25 break on NQ, and it's actually fairly likely to happen soon, is what I said in my channel with a screenshot. And it's not often that I say something is pretty likely to happen soon. I said probably won't be trading it though, done for the day personally. And then I said a couple losses today, but every trade was flawless, was with a solid hypothesis behind it. It was also a bright green day, so I'm satisfied. Spent a bit more time trading as the flag had too much immediate potential to leave. I'm glad I didn't. So as, my Thinkorswim's still open, and as I'm kind of typing out the morning recap, I send this TA alert. Not planning on actually taking it. Definitely not going to alert it. But as I'm typing out the TA alert, I get this setup. I cannot refuse this setup. It did exactly what I wanted. It triggered me in flawlessly. I didn't formally alert it because I said I didn't want to alert anymore, and alerting is a pain in the ass. But I did take this. And I actually told you guys that as I sent the morning recap in a message at the bottom, I said, also, since I'm here, I personally took the QQQ trade I gave you guys the setup for, and I'm printing as I'm typing this, but won't include it in the recap because I didn't alert the con. I didn't breastfeed you guys enough to, or handhold you guys enough to put it in the recap. But anyways, I did fill one final trade here. Didn't care where it goes. If it lost or won, I'd be done for the day. And it got there freaking gloriously. I sold right when it got there. That was another 31% gain full size trade to finish the day. So only took 3 losses today. If you include the loss that was half size, so it was 21%, but if you include the fact that it was half size, make it 11. The total combined losses today were minus 9%, minus 11, minus 10, which comes out to minus 30% in losses. And then if you include the trade that was double size, which you can or you don't have to if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. It's still a bright green day regardless. If you include the trade that was double size, so instead of 29%, it's plus 58%, right, is what that would have been if I were normal size. Hang on, I actually got to do my math. 67 plus 58, that's like 115-ish. 40, like 160 to 170% gains today. So one like 60 to 70% and then only 30% in losses. That's really damn good. And yesterday, as you guys know, was just 3 green trades in a row for like 140%. Like, it's just been fantastic lately. But the reason I left this drawing up here, because I believe the market got close to it. Let's see. Oh, look at that. It's almost, and keep in mind, I didn't actually know this happens because I'm not looking at my Thinkorswim above me. Look at this. The width of, you could take this width. That's a little too conservative. That's a little too, I usually go in the middle, but like right here with how many more oscillations it did after, like this is pretty nice right here. But on top of the breakout location, boom. Look at that. Not only did it get there pretty much perfectly, it reversed afterwards. I don't think it's just going to, go back down. It's probably going to just go sideways or go back up. But I'm telling you guys, you guys need to level up your chart game so you guys can do stuff like this. Most of you guys in this server can. Most people in other servers cannot. But that's freaking satisfying. We're ending on a satisfying note. That is beautiful. Yeah, and it got there over the last 20. Because I started this live at 8 o'clock my time, 8:01 to be exact. So the market dropped to here. And during this entire time, it went up perfectly to this price target, then back down. Beautiful. But all right, that was my morning. Very action packed, lots of analysis, lots of good trading, good psychology. This is probably the most TA loaded review I've done in a few weeks. But I'll ping everyone and tell them to watch it because a lot of people don't attend these live because they're actively trying to chase this upside. But this was a great review. But how do you mentally do it? How did you mentally get to that stage? Well, JBS, if you join premium, I tell you. It doesn't matter. I tell you guys anyway, study Mark Douglas. Everything that Mark Douglas teaches and that I teach, do that. So ask that question to anyone in premium, every single person will have the same answer. The truth is, there are a million different strategies TA wise that can work. There's one mindset that works, and you only get there by losing absolutely everything. And for some reason, you recklessly decide to stick around and you finally become detached from your losses because you literally have nothing left to lose, which is what I went through personally. That's what Mark Douglas went through. That's what most great traders, like Liam, for example, that's what he went through too. You can either do that or you can be extremely disciplined and really just take in everything we teach here, everything that Mark Douglas teach, Tom Hugard, and if you really need it, like the therapeutical side of things, Dr. Brett Steenbarger. If you take in the stuff that we teach and start reinforcing proper psychology and rewiring your brain, you can avoid that. You don't have to lose everything. You can completely avoid the learning curve, but most people don't, they're not incapable of doing it. They don't want to do it because it's hard as hell. They'd rather just lose everything in pursuit of a Green Day. So, yeah, study Mark Douglas. That's why I tell everyone, premium or not, study Mark Douglas. But yeah, so that is how you do it. You just can't give a shit, dude. You cannot give a shit. The Disciplined Trader by there's a few. The video series is much better. But to be fair, JBS, you did say you join after I get back from vacation. Join if you don't have the funds or you don't want to renew, cancel it. Who cares? Watch all the videos in the psychology course channel. Just if you're not like, for example, like if you only have $500 in your portfolio, I would never recommend someone pay $40 for like an indicator. But spend $40 on a premium service with great education, cancel it, and then during that month, watch everything that's in here, and then leave. And then you are going to be drastically better off. That's what I always recommend. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter how much money you have. The material is worth thousands of dollars easily, without a doubt. So, do that. But yeah, if you can't do that, Mark Douglas is your guy. And that's for everyone else watching this recording. Mark Douglas is your guy. But all right, sweet. Bree, I hope your hike is going good, by the way, dude. I don't know where you're at right now, but you're probably somewhere still in the desert. But all right, guys, I'm gonna end the recording here. We have live futures trading again today. It's been 5 green days in a row. A red day needs to happen because, as you guys know, I add more accounts every red day. But seriously, a red day is due. So if you're gonna join, don't do anything stupid. Be willing to accept your red day because it's literally due. Like 5 green days in a row is like, and it should be 6. I kind of messed up. It really could be 6. Actually, I did review that trade yesterday. And it's like, we'll review it later today. But anyways, 5 green days in a row. It doesn't really peak much more than that. You know, I think the record is like 7 before a few losses, but it's like 5 is getting there. So don't join the live unless you are fully ready to accept loss. You're better off just not trading the day. But all right, I will see you guys later. Thanks for attending this recording. I'll let you guys know when it's posted. It is a fantastic recording. Lots of material in here. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a couple hours to trade futures.